What's up, Ramblers? So, in true Brendan style, it's Sunday, and this is like the 5th time I've shot this video, but it's okay. Punish me. I like punishments. Not actually, but I'm okay with them, so punish me. So anyways, of course, I'm sorry that this is coming to you late and after Alex has already posted her video, but this is how it is. So I accept your punishments, and on to the question, which is when and where in any period of history would you live if you had the choice? Oh, hey, look, guys, it's my roommate. Look, he's back there. Look, he's over there. Now, Alex, your response of wanting to be here and now and the internet and all those things was my first response too. When I first thought about this question, I'm like, I really wouldn't want to live any other time than now because I'm so dependent on the internet with everything that I do. But then I thought it's kind of sad to be so dependent on the internet that you wouldn't want to experience any other time period of history to save yourself from having to live without internet. And we're so dependent on it in this day and age that we couldn't imagine ourselves living in a time without it. So there are obviously a lot of things I would have to live without if I didn't have the internet in my lives, including this project right here and YouTube and all those things. But I feel like if I lived in a certain time period where there was not internet, then I wouldn't know that the internet was something that I could have and I wouldn't miss it. So with that in mind, I would want to live in Shakespearean England. Now, Alex, obviously I don't have as many factors to sort of think about as you do because, men have always been sort of the more privileged sex throughout history. So I don't have women's issues to really consider. So Elizabethan England, Shakespearean England, around the turn of the 16th century were pretty good times. I mean, obviously there was still remnants of the plague and terrible diseases and not a lot of medicine, and people died at a very young age, and, general horrible standard of living. But the time itself and what happened in that time was incredible. As you guys know, I'm in history, and my specialization when I study history is early modern sort of era Europe, which essentially extends from the mid-1400s to about 1700. And Shakespeare was alive during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, which was right at the end of the 1500s into the beginning of the 1600s when James I took over. And a lot of very exciting things happened during that time. For instance, we were just beginning to see the sort of inception of the period that would later come to be known as the Enlightenment, when these ideas of the superiority of ideas and how maybe the church is not really the central figure of the world anymore, and it's politics and science and math and these things that we live by today in our secular world come to the forefront of everybody's mind. There's also the whole idea of democracy coming back into the picture in England, which hadn't been for a very, very long time, with things like the gunpowder plot to overthrow the government. Remember the 5th of November and all that stuff? Also in that period was the English Civil War, which without a doubt is my favorite period of history, article of history to study in the entire world. And if I end up doing my master's degree, which I really hope so, I will definitely be specializing in English Civil War. Here's a people finally questioning the divine right of kings, which has been the sort of defining factor of monarchy for hundreds and hundreds of years at this point. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm Canadian. I'm not an anti-monarchist like Americans. But I am very much for a people taking their own politics into their own hands, and if overthrowing the government through a bloody civil war is what it took back then so be it. They didn't really have the means of establishing rule by the people without violence back then, so they had to resort to what they could. And the English Civil War was the predecessor to a lot of things. People don't realize how much of an impact the ideas which were sparked by the English Civil War and the writings of Locke and all those men who sort of formulated their social contracts based on the English Civil War had on the later revolutions in France and America. The English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution in England were unbelievably influential in those later revolutions, and to be around and alive at a time when these ideas were first coming to the front, even if it meant I had to fight and die for my country, it's kind of a romantic time to live in. Cromwell was an inspiring guy, and as much as he may have been a little bit crazy in his pursuit of anti-monarchism, the guy was kind of a big deal. Of course, besides all of that, bloody English Civil War kind of stuff, there's the developments in arts and in writing which were happening at the same time. obviously I define the period as Shakespearean, so, you know, would have been cool to be around when his plays were being performed on a regular basis. Oh, wait. They're still being performed on a regular basis. But they were new, they were fresh, they were original back then and unadulterated. And we have what we think are the best original copies of those plays, but to see them actually performed as they were meant to be performed would be... I can't even describe what that would be. This period also fell just under 200 years after the invention of the printing press, so books were finally starting to be widely available for people to learn how to read for themselves. And we all know that reading is awesome. So Alex, as much as I agree with you that standard of living and the internet and women's rights and racial rights and all these things are very, very, very good these days, I still wouldn't choose now to be alive. Anyways, I'm looking forward to hear everybody's comments down below, and James, I will see you on Tuesday.